Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm Jack, joined by
Dominic Castillo.
And Giovanni.
Alright, so we are back here today. It is Thursday. How have the two of you been?
I have been admittedly a little lazy. This past couple of days, there's been no work, so I just laying around, just doing my thing, playing some games here and there. Other than nothing much really else. Today, however, we finally get back to work. We'll be working for 5 days straight, I believe. I think today's a Clippers game, if I remember correctly. Money's gonna be raking back in. However, the next couple of paychecks, so they are gonna be, slightly lower than usual, as due to the loss of days. But it is what it is. Other than that, Jack and I were able to watch the 2022 film Suzume, which was pretty PogChamp, and nothing much else.
Alright. How about you, Gio?
This week it started off really, really well. It was nice having a break from work. Just being able to stay home with my dogs. Take them on very long walks and just be with them and have time to play with the boys. But then yesterday there was some very sad news in the K-pop world, which I'm gonna mention later. And I don't know, it's very tough to get over it. So I'm hoping that today, with work starting again, I think it's for the next 4 days, right, Tom?
Next 4 or 5 days, including Monday next week.
I think it's, the next 5 days. Hopefully it'll help distract myself from it. Because, I don't know, it's very unbelievable.
Alright. For me, I've just been, I guess you could say similar to Dom in the sense of I been a bit lazy, I haven't really been doing a whole lot, except maybe writing, but at the same time I'm trying to really get back on track with the writing, because I don't know, it's sometimes I'll try and write one day and it's just I don't really do a whole lot of it, so I'm trying to get back into it, especially, because I really enjoy it, but for whatever reason, just as of late, I've just felt a bit lazy with it, but hoping to get more back into it, and then other than that, like Dom said, on Monday, we went to go see the anime movie Suzume. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And other than that, the rest of the week has been, pretty decent. Just been watching, obviously, the Phillies, and that's pretty much it from my side of things. But I guess if there's nothing more to be said, we can transition into our two main topics of today, and I leave it to you, gentlemen. Which one do you guys feel is the one to discuss first?
That's a tricky one. I think we should start off with since Tom's not going to be here, we should talk about the darker one, I guess. And then end on a lighter note.
Okay. Sounds like a good choice. Okay. Yeah, so go ahead and explain, because obviously, it's not only is it something that you really want to talk about, and also it's if I want to say, close to your heart, but also, you're probably the one who has the most knowledge on it, so take it away.
Okay, so yesterday morning, at around, I would say, 8 a.m. We were a lot of the news started spreading like fire that Astro's Moonbeam had decided to take his life in his own apartment, and for those of you who don't know, Astro is one of like the OG K-pop groups, boy groups. They've been in the industry for a pretty long time. They're very well beloved. They're not popular like on some Stray Kids level or anything, but they're loved. They're kind of like Oh Micro, whereas like the nation loves them, but they just can't break it internationally. But it's a group full of very humble guys. They're very kind. They're very sweet. They try their best to use their very small platform to promote anything that they see needs some assistance, charities, even small like their junior groups that are just starting out, even groups that have no like relation to them. They still go out of the way to promote them, to like share the word on their Instagram stories and things like that. So they're very kind people, and from what I know, there hasn't been a lot of incidents lately or recently involving one of the members having issues with mental health or anything like that. Like, it's very shocking to receive the news that one of them decided to take his own life. So I don't remember what time it was in Korea, but his manager decided to drop by his apartment after he didn't show up to dance practice. So to make sure that he was okay, the manager decided to go to his apartment, and when he opened the door, he found Moonbeam lifeless, and he notified the authorities as fast as possible. So we got an official statement from the company saying, telling us the news, and they said that an autopsy would be done soon, but as of now, it's being ruled as a suicide, and it's a very delicate situation for everyone because you don't want to be prying into the personal lives of the families when they're going through something like this. But it's everyone on Twitter. It's the usual Twitter stuff, but at times like this, it's even more embarrassing that we have people who go out of their ways to be, how can I say this without violating our no cursing rule? It's just, I don't know, they're degenerates, I guess. I guess that's a good word. I don't know. There's a lot of people on Twitter who are like speculating is why he did it, who they're blaming, and things like that. And the thing that really, that's very tragic is his sister is also an idol, Moon Sua. She's part of Billy, and she was currently promoting her new group song, and to have such horrible news being told to you while you're getting ready to, go on stage, I can't imagine what she's going through. And yeah, it's just, to me, I was a fan of Astro's music. I would spend hours watching Astro. My girlfriend was completely in love with them. They're one of her favorite groups. And I was very worried about her because every time that we would watch Astro content, she would tell me how much she liked Moonbeam specifically. I was very worried about her because, I don't know, she's a very closed off person. And I don't know, it's just, I knew she wasn't going to do anything dramatic or drastic, I should say. But still. But yeah, Moonbeam, to me, he was a great performer, great person. And yeah, it's very, it's out of the blue. Like, I would never have imagined someone like him suffering enough to the point where this was the only solution, I guess.
Yeah, Gio told me about it yesterday, and like I told him, that's just, it's always a very tragic situation when stuff like this happens, and to me, it's sadly common. If you want to, I mean, we know suicide is common like throughout the world. I'm pretty sure it's like the second leading cause of death in the world. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's overtaken number one. I forget what number one used to be, but yeah, it's like it's up there, and it's common in all places. But I feel like it's most prevalent and common in the music industry. On all settings of the world, whether it's over here in the U.S., over there, anywhere in the world, especially like in any music industry. I feel like you just see it the most, and it's like it's very tragic, and it's always especially tragic when the person is just so young, and it's like it's just all like, to me it's always the most tragic when these people are so young, because it's like not only in their career musically that they have more to give, they were talented and had so much more to give, but you also think about like their personal lives and just how much a future they had ahead of them, especially like post their career. Like there was just so much for them to accomplish in life in general, and it's always just sad, and like you said, to think about the family as well. But personally, whenever stuff like this happens, I'm kind of the one who obviously feels bad for the family and those affected, such as the fans, and always offer my condolences and prayers. But I always just immediately think, kind of like how you were saying right now, Gio, just man, it makes me a bit sad, but I always think about the person and just think, what were they going through, because honestly, that's the thing that people think of the least when it comes to stuff like this, like a lot of people, they're obviously coming from a good place when they say stuff like, think of your family, think of all the people who love you, but like a person in that mindset already is, one, not gonna want to hear that, because all it's gonna do is guilt trip them, in a sense, like make them feel guilty for the way they're feeling and making it seem like they're wrong for feeling that way, when in reality what you should be doing is offering the utmost help you can. And obviously everyone's human, and you can only do as much as you can for a person, but like in places like that, when you make statements like that, it can easily be taken the wrong way, or have different effects than what the person saying thought it was going to have on the person, or two, kind of like how you were alluding to it when you said it, some people can just be essentially so far gone mentally that they're not going to care when you bring up stuff like that, like they've reached their breaking point, which is why I always kind of refer to like suicide like that, because it's like it's the breaking point, it's something that people don't understand, that like they finally reached that point where nothing else mattered anymore, where nothing was there to really pull them back, in a sense, and like I don't know, like it's just a very tragic situation, obviously, and the main thing that like I wanted to have like a discussion about when Gio first told me this, because it was one of the first things that came to my mind, especially knowing the career this musician, this man was in. It made me like wanna, like it started making me think, and so it made me want to ask the two of you what you guys think. But first off, just want to make sure everyone knows I'm asking this in the like utmost respectful way. I mean no disrespect to him, his family, his fans, his fellow members and all that, but it's just something that I wonder, especially because I've noticed like in the recent trend of years, at least like so far this decade, like I've seen the direction music's heading towards. And so it makes me like wonder, you know, in a sense, do you guys think that that the career he was in made it especially harder for him to be as open and vocal about these sort of things, you know? Because, like, the way I think about it, you know, I think back to all the artists that I've had to see lose their lives to suicide, you know, Chester Bennington, Chris Cornell, and all that, you know, and plenty of other artists, obviously, that I can name, but, you know, those are the two that I remember, especially because they hit closer to me, you know, and just hearing, like, what people had to say afterwards, you know, and the one person, you know, ironically, that always stuck to me was, they were interviewing Jay-Z, and they asked him about, like, Chester Bennington, and it will always stick to me what he said in that interview, basically saying that, you know, imagine having to go out and perform to a stadium of people, dealing with what you're dealing with, and then having to go sit back at the dinner table with your family and act like nothing's wrong because you can't tell, like, you know, you've gotten to the point where you can't even tell the people at the dinner table what you're going through, you know, that what you're feeling and, you know, the things you're struggling with. Like, it gets to that point where you can't even tell them, you know. And so, like, I think back to that, and, you know, I brought it up earlier how I feel it's just more prevalent in the music community, but, like, I don't know, obviously, the K-pop scale too much, but, you know, I think about, in a sense, how rigorous, I guess you could say, that specific music industry is with the K-pop world, with, like, how much goes into it. And obviously, you know, we don't know what a person's going through and what makes them get to that point, but, like, I just think to, like, how things are in that industry, and I think, you know, again, not to, like, it's not me throwing any blame on anyone, but, like, it's just sort of just me thinking, like, I wonder how much of, like, because in a sense, you know, that industry, much like the rest of the music industry, is very, like, almost in a sense, like, living under a microscope, in a sense, when you're in the bright lights of the music industry, you know, like, it feels like your life is very much lived under a microscope where, you know, everyone sort of knows your every move, and, you know, you're having to make all these appearances, and, you know, you're having to be very secretive with your life, you know, a lot of the times. It just makes me wonder, like, how much could something like that have affected, you know, many of these people in the music industry where, you know, kind of like how Jay-Z was saying, you get to this point where, you know, you feel like you can't even show your true self even when you're, like, performing, or, like, especially when you're, like, having to perform, you know, day in, day out to, like, these huge crowds of people, and you just kind of start feeling like, you know, these people are, you know, heavily interested in your music. A lot of people, depending on what type of music you make, or not even just depending on music, but, like, a lot of people connect with your music and rely on it in a sense, and you sort of get to this point where it's like, man, you know, how could I even let these people know the things I'm going through, you know?
It's kind of, this is a very difficult topic to talk about because, like, the thing that you mentioned is that sometimes it's difficult or near impossible to tell the people you're closest with what you're going through. And one thing I've always thought about, and I literally had this discussion with my girlfriend earlier today, is, so why is it like that? Because I know everyone goes through everyone has different issues, and some people are more comfortable than others when talking about their problems with their family. But I feel like even if it's impossible for you, or you think it's impossible for you, you should still let someone know that you're in a very dark place. Because I don't know if that's like arrogant of me to say. Like, oh, if you're like, it's kind of like when you tell someone, oh, I don't have any money, and then they're like, oh, well, just stop spending money on stuff, or oh, I'm hungry, I'll eat something. It's like a very obvious answer to the problem. So I don't know if it's me being arrogant and saying, well, if people are going through like a very dark place or in a very dark place and they feel like they're being overwhelmed, sometimes just letting someone know can help you. And so it's a genuine question. I'm not trying to be an a-hole and be like, oh, just talk to someone. It's kind of like how or what prevents people from, reaching out in moments like this. Because I feel like if a lot more people start being open about the issues that they're having, then maybe some more lives will be saved. So, yeah, I don't know if that's me crossing a line and being, I don't know. It just feels like
No.
it's not like if you're gonna. It's not like if I go up to Dominic. Me and Dominic, we've gotten closer over the last few months because of work. And then it's not like I'm gonna go up to Dominic. Actually, it might be Dominic who says something like this. But if I go up to Dominic and say, Dominic, I'm going through. No, it didn't happen. I literally told him that like a month ago that we took like a week break from work, not from work, from the gym, because I told him I was going through some stuff, like some very personal stuff, and I just needed a break. And he was very understanding of it. So there's always someone that you could talk to, I feel. So I don't know.
Real quickly before I insert my opinion, Dom, is there anything you want to say on either of the things we mentioned?
Well, I just want to throw in my 2 cents in that. Well, this whole situation is very heavy. My condolences to those. And it's just, how would I say this? In the world of idols and just, stardom, it is indeed very difficult to find help, especially when you don't want to expose yourself as a person who needs it. Because, people are going to, think differently about you when you don't want to, the unfortunate reality is that you don't want to lose that sort of, the look of you, if that makes sense. You don't want other, respectfully, yeah. You don't want to be seen as someone who's weak or, vulnerable. You obviously want to seem as strong and powerful as you. That's just the name of the game these days. And it is tough to look for help, and it is, it's not easy, right? I mean, how would I say this? First of all, the act of looking for help in situation like this, when you feel depressed, when you feel down, and when things don't get as easy as you think it is, regardless of fame, it can be quite a toll on people. Oh, well, I guess the people who are in said stardom, where it can get to the point where the trouble in and of itself can just, how would I say it, can be, I guess, the fans and such as that. As we just know, as Gio stated, that people on Twitter and the like will go to extreme lengths just to find out what's the root cause of the problem when the utmost privacy is just required at that certain point in time. And, people don't respect that. People will never respect that. And, that's just the unfortunate reality of things. That, when it comes to fame, nothing is ever private. Nothing can ever be private, because some way, somehow, someone's going to leak something, someone's going to expose something. And then, it's just the whole, fanfare is just people trying to dig in to, cover it, with drama and all that stuff. And that only takes even a heavier toll onto the idols or just anyone who's in that sort of business. And not only that, but also damages the career and reputation. Let's say someone who let's say in an idol group, they might be pushed off from said idol group that complete just would devastate their their career, their plans, their future dreams of continuing, their pursuit of happiness, which can obviously just even further push him to to the brink of suicide. And as unfortunate it is, it's a harsh reality we have to go through. And what's even worse is, I think Jack Drew said it, or you said it, but it's fortunately common that this happens. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know what can be a true solution to such things, because we've already delved deeply into this sort of social media world where everything and anything can be pushed to the extent of either drama or rumors or fake news per se onto someone's just image or reputation, whether it's right or wrong. Even if it, how would you say, in favor of said person and who's in fame, that still has a complete negative side of things where people are now trying to defend or attack, and it's just a whole it's just a whole ordeal that's just, it's bad, and it leaves a bad taste in the idol industry and just overall, just I guess the stardom industry, where no one's safe. Doesn't matter you're like the most wholesome person, there's still gonna be someone else trying to get you for your rights and negatives, and that only just brings a person's mentality just down. Yeah. It's not pretty. It's not pretty at all.
Yeah, and there's like so many examples I want to give, but also like, I don't know, like the more I think about it, it just feels like, like how Dom was saying, like what do we even do to like make things better and all that. And I also still want to answer Gio's question about like the whole asking for help, but it kind of feels like the issue, especially in the grand scheme of just the entire world, is that we have like a weird gray area that we're stuck in, where people care too much about issues and don't care at all about issues, and by that I mean, look at all the different examples we've seen where it's like people tell you, oh, you shouldn't be making jokes about this, you shouldn't be, talking about this and this. And then the very next day, they're doing exactly what they were, essentially preaching against, Like, when Chadwick Boseman died, I know it wasn't suicide, but, think about, like, anytime we saw him in the months leading up to it, you guys remember that photo of him that went viral where he looked, extremely, like, skinny and all that, and people wanted to make jokes about it, and then next thing you know, the news comes out that he passed away because of, I think it was cancer, right?
Mm-hmm. Colon cancer.
Yeah, that news comes out, and here come all the people saying, oh, this is why you shouldn't speak without knowing anything. You shouldn't make jokes about people's appearances if you don't know, what they're going through. And then, much like the news cycle, the 24 hours of controversy pass, and then boom, they're back to doing the same thing, not caring at all about the issues that they were just saying previously they cared so much about, One of the ones that hits especially close to me is I think back on it and how it's going to be 3 years since it happened. But there's sort of two situations. I think it was in 2021 when it happened. Keith Lee, a wrestler who wrestled for WWE and now is with AEW, but this happened during his time with WWE. So in January of 2021, I believe it was, his wife caught COVID, and I think he ended up catching COVID. So that put them on the shelf. But then things started getting worse for him, and he had to like start seeing doctors, and this led to him being off television for like a very, very long time. And just during the entire process, all he told his fans and like people was just, I want my privacy. If you're not hearing it from me, don't believe anything that these news cycles are talking about. And all fans kept talking about was, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? What's going on with you? Why can't we, the fans, know? Almost entitled in a sense. Like, well, why can't we know? Why can't you just tell us what's going on and all that? And then finally, he ended up making his return, and I think like right before he made his return, he put out a short video where he basically finally talked about everything that he went through, and come to find out that like COVID ended up spiraling into this whole other thing where I think he had like a heart issue, and it got so bad to the point where all he could do was go on like a very light walk, where even if he jogged, it literally could have led to him like dying. I think he said, like it got to a really bad heart issue where any sort of extreme conditions, which jogging was classified as an extreme condition, could have led to him dying, and everyone at that point was like, oh, see, this is why you can't feel entitled to knowing about these people just because, you're a fan and just because you watch them on TV, because, essentially touching on the whole parasocial sort of topic, you don't know these people in real life, so you aren't entitled to their information and what they go through in real life, like this man was struggling, at the highest degree. His family was really being tested with a situation like this. He also mentioned that he lost a couple of family members as well during certain times when, he was kind of like silent and all that. And it was like, this is why you can't feel entitled to knowing about these people just because you watch them play for your favorite team. You watch them on TV and all that. You listen to their music is what people were bringing up in discussions. And then, they went right back to, wanting to know everything about certain wrestlers and their situations when it occurs and all that, and wanting them to speak on it. And he just never accomplished anything. And then, like I was mentioning, the one that, like, really affected me the most was back in May of 2020. I had just started getting into the Japanese women's wrestling promotion, Stardom. And I literally got into it because of one woman, and her name was Hana Kimura. I had seen like 2 of her matches, and I was like completely blown away because of what my knowledge of women's wrestling was before that. And I was just so blown away by the wrestling at this promotion that I started getting into it. And then come May 2020, she ends up taking her own life, and it wasn't even because of wrestling. Or, who knows, maybe it was. Because, again, I don't know this person, and I don't know what they went through during this time, but she was on like this like Netflix sort of a series, like Japanese series that was like almost like a reality show in a sense. And like they had this episode where she was getting upset at this one guy because he ended up like shrinking her wrestling gear that was like from a very big event that they had. And in real life, she didn't care. It was just like to play it up for the reality show. But all these fans started being like toxic to her online and started bullying her for something as little as that. And then she ended up taking her own life. And, it was so tragic. I was like heartbroken for days. I'm still heartbroken to this day. But like, I just remember crying so much during those days because it was so sad. She was like 23 at the time, I think. And she had arguably one of the brightest futures ahead of her. She had, star right there in the making, like she was guaranteed to be a star with the way she just could capture an audience and all that, and I mentioned, it's 3 years later and people still evoke her name as a sort of like gotcha moment in a sense. Like anytime a wrestler goes under any type of criticism, people like will bring up her name as like, like, oh, look at what can happen. And, it's never genuine in the sense. It's not like people care about her and her story. They just sort of use it as this like gotcha moment instead of actually thinking about the implications behind her story and how much, care should go towards these athletes. Like they never genuinely use her story and speak about her other than like bringing up her suicide. And to me it's like that's not what she was. That shouldn't be her only defining thing. Her defining thing should be the career she laid before her, and somewhat thinking in the sense of the career she would have had. But you shouldn't let the defining factor be just her suicide, you know. And a lot of people just genuinely didn't care too much about what she went through, and instead looked towards narratives that they could spread through her suicide, which was very heartbreaking to me, that like that's what people wanted to get out of it, instead of thinking we just lost, you know, a huge potential and lost a human being, like not even thinking the wrestling, we just lost a young human being because of something as stupid as bullying for a reality TV show on Netflix, you know. And like to this day, her mother's still trying to get justice and suing and getting these people locked up and all that. But real quick, I'm sorry for speaking so much, but turning to the thing Gio was talking about asking for help, you know, it's a very difficult discussion to have, you know, because you're met with opposition at every corner you turn to. You know, you still got, you know, with a lack of a better term, you still got the old heads who think, you know, it's some great crime for a dude to openly discuss his emotions, you know, and be close with other men and be open with other men, who still look at it as shameful, who still look at it, you know, as all sorts of things, you know. And it like you meet opposition there, you meet opposition from the same people who will tell you that they want you to be open more, you know. Because like one thing I saw that like put it sort of beautifully is like, you have these people who will tell you that they're there to offer any help, but a lot of them are only sort of saying it because they feel like inclined to, like they feel like they have to, you know, or otherwise they're gonna come off of a jerk as a jerk if they're not. But at the same time, we gotta understand that, you know, sadly, some of these people, like how this guy ended up saying it, a lot of these people will tell you that, but they're one of two things: they aren't equipped to handle what you're going to tell them, or they aren't equipped to help you in the way that you need the help, you know. Like, you know, personally, when it came to asking for help, everyone knows I'm not the guy who asks for help, essentially, you know. I have my moments here and there where I'll speak out to people and, you know, just speak my piece and, you know, get things off my chest that I need to. But for the most part, I'm a very like closed book, and I have my reasons for that, you know. And it's like the reasons that this guy was saying, you know. It's like sometimes it's like I've opened up to people and it's like I honestly thought of it as a mistake because they clearly weren't equipped to handle it, you know. Like, you know, bless her heart, but like I can't open up to my mother because, you know, I just know it'll break her heart anytime I would have told her about the things I was going through, you know. And I don't want to cause any more pain through my pain, you know. Or I think to certain people who I like opened up to them, and I'm like, you know, it's not that I think of them any less in a sense, or it's like, it's not like I think they were the wrong person to go for help. I just think I came to them with the wrong situation to get help for, you know. Like sometimes you talk to certain people and you got to realize everyone has different experiences, and so sometimes they can't help you with the experience they went through because, or they can't help you with what you're going through because they've never experienced such a thing, you know. And sometimes maybe, you know, they can refer you to other people, but then sometimes, you know, you kind of just feel guilty because you feel like you place this unnecessary burden on someone because you just dropped like this huge, you know, this huge bomb on them in the sense of like all this stuff you're going through, and, you know, they can't help you because they've never been in a situation, so you have to go find someone else. And now they're just kind of having to sit there and be like, man, I wish I could really help this person, but I don't know what way I can help them, you know. And I mean, there's like tons of different like reasonings behind why people don't seek out the help, but I think the biggest reason is something Dom sort of touched on, and that's seeking help still has this sort of notion around it that it's a sign of weakness. It implies weakness, that, you know, that you need to ask for help, and personally, I think that's something that everyone sort of struggles with, that they think that asking for help is a sign of weakness. And this is not just mentally, it goes for anything, and it's why we label so many people, including ourselves, as stubborn, is that, you know, it can be as simple as, asking someone for help with opening a jar, or reaching something that you can't. And we see people go to extreme lengths just to not ask for help. And it's, very similar to how people are mentally, where they'd rather jump through every hoop and obstacle than get the help they need, because it means a sign of weakness when asking for help, I mean, the biggest thing I think towards is, especially something that potentially the three of us can relate to is, you think to the Hispanic community, how quick are they to label someone as crazy or loco just because, they seek help, professional help. They go see a therapist. They get medication to handle whatever mental issues that they're going through. How many times are they quick to label their own family members as the crazy one because they're getting the help they need, the proper help they need, the professional help that they need that will actually tackle their issues, instead of just going towards, these things that are not ever gonna help, like they're gonna turn towards things that are never gonna solve the issues and sometimes worsen the issues, like how many times do we see people turn to alcohol and, they talk about, oh, it helps, but like, no, I'm sorry if I sound ignorant, but it never helps, because all it does is numb the pain. Sometimes all it does is temporarily fix, but where's the permanent fix,
That's something that I've been, recently I've gotten back into watching the Sidemen and listening to their podcast, and they shared, since they're one of the most successful groups in YouTube history, they obviously have a lot of money, and one of them, Bazinga, or Ethan, he was going through a very dark period in his life where he was one phone call away from taking his life, and then they were talking about how they have all this money, but at some point it just becomes like the norm for them. So like at first you're like, oh dude, I'm having dinner in this fancy restaurant, this is new to me, this is exciting, and then after that's just the norm. Yeah, the $1,200 steak, yeah, that's what I eat. And then they were saying how they never really considered taking any drugs and things like that. And not to like throw shade at the people that do, but it's just said that they decided to find permanent fixes, like you said, to their problems. So now they try their best to like explore new hobbies and like doing like very random things, like going to a pottery class, because since it's so different from what they do from day to day, it's very relaxing for them. So I think if, especially like in the whole rap culture, we've seen a lot of artists who have a lot of potential to be amongst the top in terms of longevity of like more sales, blah blah blah. But because of how the rap culture is, it's like if you can't feel anything, or if you're not having fun, take some lean. Those Percocets will get you straight. And it's so dumb, bro. Like, just imagine if, I don't know, it's kind of, I don't know if I should mention it, but just imagine if Juice WRLD wasn't so, he would still be here.
Yeah.
And other artists as well.
Yeah, and it's it's a controversial subject, but also it's like, it's the company you keep, It's the reason why I don't speak on Juice WRLD's situation too much, because obviously he was his own man who made his own decisions, but also I think sometimes I'm just like, yeah, man, it was the company you kept, and, as controversial as it sounds, could have had a different outcome if certain people weren't around him. Because I don't know. I think to the documentary where they were literally filming him doing stuff, and it's like, I don't know. Oh, 10 seconds left. I've been Jack, joined by
Dominic Castillo.
And Giovanni.
Thank you all for joining for this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.